So hello, my name is Michael, and welcome to my video. I'm a Master League player, and I'm going to talk about my personal um, method of winning games in Starcraft 2. So I'm going to talk about two things in this tutorial, my tutorial, and they are the two things which I believe are most important for me at least when it comes to winning games in Starcraft 2. And first I'm going to talk about the builds and the builds I use. So I have about 3 builds that I like using typically, and I'll talk about when I use each one and how I pick which build I'm going to use for the game. Then I'm going to talk about, now that's typically what I do, and then I'm going to talk about my tempo. So what to do, or what I do for like the mid game to like late game. What do I do when when the match is kind of even, and how do I handle myself? Like when do I push out? When do I expand? When do I deny an expansion? When do I turtle? That type of thing. When do I just harass? And so that's what I'm going to go over in this video. In my video, I'm going to go over my builds, and then my builds that I use that I believe have gotten me to Master League. It could be something else, but I think it's my builds and my tempo. Because those are the two hardest things. Those are the two things that were toughest for me to figure out. Because when I started playing team games, I started out in Platinum League, so it took me a while to figure out, what build is gonna, help me win games, and when do I stick with my teammates, when do I not stick with my teammates. So that type of thing was the hardest for me to figure out, and they were the most important things to know, at least for my playstyle, for me to move up from Platinum to Diamond and Diamond to Masters, as far as I can tell. Because by my own count, when I open the right build, a build that I know I should go for a particular game, I typically win those games. And when I open a build that I know I shouldn't for a particular matchup, I typically lose those games. And when I use the tempo that I know I should use, I typically win my games. And if I get like careless or impatient, I typically lose those games or lose my army. And so that's why I believe build and tempo are the biggest factors when it comes to winning a game or not. At least for me personally and my playstyle. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, the build and the tempo that work for me. Also, if I had somebody, like I kind of wish, when I was playing, I had somebody to just teach me. Although, it's cool learning it was cool learning on my own, or learning from other players, just learning from what I saw, from what other players do. But if someone had just taught me, then maybe I would not think I'm rank 7 right now for 4v4s. Maybe I would be rank, 5 or 6 or 4. I would have that. I think I've been doing this for like a month or 2 months or so. Team games for 2 months or so. And yeah, I think I would have just ranked up a lot quicker had I someone who had already walked the path and had someone to tell me at least their way of uh, winning games up to Masters League. So yeah, that's why I'm making this. And now I'm gonna start with my builds. So here I'm going Banshees. So in this video, this clip here, so this is one of the builds that I like to go. It's one of my favorite builds. I think it's a lot of Terran's favorite builds. I go Banshees when me personally, I go Banshees, double starport Banshees when I see players. I pick my build based off what I see in the scouting. So if a player fast expands, so I'm looking if the player fast expands, if he's teching, or if he looks like he's gonna do like an 8-minute push out. In this game, we saw that we're scouting. I think we scouted earlier, and we saw that both players fast expanded. So the Zerg fast expanded, the Terran also fast expanded. So I decided to go double starport Banshees because that's what I personally like doing. I like going double starport Banshees when I see a fast expand. So when I see a Zerg go hatch first, when I see a Protoss go Nexus first, or like a Terran go one barracks, one barracks command center. So in this, I have a random teammate, and he's actually going the same build that I am, but he's typically I'll wait till 4 Banshees and I have cloak and then I'll push out. But the Terran player, he was pushing out with his Banshees, so I had to go. And because your element of surprise is over once they know the Banshees are on the field, both players are going to get up air defense. So I just decided to go anyways. But he starts working on him. Me and him, he didn't know that I don't know if he even knew that I was going Banshees. I didn't communicate at all, so that was my fault. But whatever. But yeah, I like going Banshees when they fast expand. It's the most effective build for me personally, as you can see in this video, or like how it happens. Just because when a player fast expands, at least in my experience, they typically get their gas a little bit later, and they get their lair tech a little bit later. They get mutalisks a little bit later, and then all they have to really fight you are they get mutalisk infestors, hydras later. All they really have to fight you are like spore crawlers and queens, and and plus they have to get double the spore crawlers that they normally would if they have two bases, because spore crawlers have limited range. So if they have to get four spore crawlers to defend against you, well, they have to get eight if they have two bases. So it just costs a little bit more, and it's just, I don't know. It's just, for some reason, maybe that's not it. Maybe that's not it. But in my experience, whenever I go banshees against a fast expander, it typically works out really well. So that's the first build I go. If I see a fast expand, I know most of the time I'll go banshees. I'll tech up and get double starport banshees. And in this game, it's not just with Zerg, but it's especially effective against Zerg when Zerg fast expands, because they don't have like most Zergs don't get hydras, so really all they have are queens, and like there's a gap between queen and spire, so it's especially effective against Zerg players. It's also effective against Terrans because Marines are pretty easily picked off by banshees. They're just, I don't know. It's a two-shot. It's a clean two-shot for banshees, and I think banshees might even have faster speed than Marines and also longer range. I think that's what I think. But yeah, and then these players just quit, I think. Yeah, the other guy, I think he even took out that Terran with two banshees. I'm not saying he's super good or anything. I'm just saying, like, or maybe he is. I don't know. But it's really tough to defend against banshees, at least in my experience. When fast experience. So that's my first build, and I think this guy surrenders soon. And they surrender. So here's my second build. It's 3 racks with turrets. So this is what I go when I think the other players are gonna go banshees. When I think the other players are gonna go Dark Templars or banshees or mutalisks, maybe like one base mutalisk, something like that. When I think they're gonna tech, then I typically I go this build. It's the most effective in my experience, for me personally. It's where I go 3 racks and I get an engineering bay around the 6-minute mark, and then I have turrets up by the 7-minute mark, because that's typically when Dark Templars come out. And yeah, perfect. And we're me and my teammate are both going this build. So, like, it's just, I don't know, it just worked out really well this game, and we both go the same build. And the enemy, it's a Terran versus Terran, and again, this is a random teammate. And I don't know, I suspected that they were going to go banshees. I think I saw double gas earlier on, and yeah. So now that the banshees are over, we decide to push out, and or at least see what's up, see if they have an expansion up. Because if they have an expansion up, when we've been going pure 3 racks and they have banshees which aren't going to be effective anymore, they didn't kill any workers, then I'm looking to deny an expansion right now. So but yeah, that's my opener for to counter the banshee. And then right now we give the advantage because the banshees didn't really do that much, and they don't have any meaty units. So at this point we could push in. Now if the banshees decide to attack us while we're pushing, well, a scan is really good, because the banshees can't, when they're fighting at your base and you scan, the banshee can run from the scan. But if you're fighting at their base, you choose where the battle is. So the scan becomes a lot more effective, a much more effective counter to stealth. So here's an expansion. I decide to take it out, or at least harass it a little bit, see what they have. I should probably scan the front of their base right now. But yeah, alright, so here we go. That's what they have. I actually see that they have a ton of Marines. I think I see. Then I back out. I don't know how they have that many Marines. Maybe they got SCVs. I don't know. But they have a ton of Marines. I think I'm getting stim so I can kill siege tanks at this point. And I'm just my ally, yeah, my ally. Yeah, here's where I see they have a ton of Marines. I'm like, what the hell? Ally loses a bunch of Marines. But alright, at this point you can either push out or you can do what my ally does. He takes the gold, so you can either make it so they, there's no option of dancing around. Meaning either you push and they have to fight at their front door, or you take the gold and they have to attack the gold. So that's what we do when we have a bigger army, which we do because again he invested in Banshees and we invested in meaty units like Marine Marauder and now Medvacs and Stim. So yeah, it goes on for a while. I think I'm just gonna fast forward. Alright, so now I'm going to defend. Purple set up an expansion at the gold, and I think they just detected it. He set up an expansion about like 30 seconds ago. I think he actually built it there, and then he just started building SCVs there. So now I'm putting up my own expansion as well, pretty secure with everything. Yeah, and they attack siege tanks and a bigger army. So they all die. We pull them out of, they can't just dance around with the banshees, and that's how I typically like countering a tech. And that the same goes for Dark Templars or Mutas. So this game, I'm gonna go over my last build, my third opener, and this one is the anti rush, the anti 3 racks, or the anti 4-gate 3 racks or roach bust or anything like that. And if I see them going one gas, chrono boosting warp gate, and then like I have my probe in there for a long, or my SCV in there for a long time, they're still all one gas. There's no expansion up. I highly suspect a push out, so like a 7-minute push out or something like that. And when I see that, I go 3 racks, and then pretty early I get an extra command center. So it's kind of like a fast expand, It's an early expand, a pretty early expand, not a fast expand. It's not like 1 barracks command center, although that could probably work too. But I like to have my options, so I typically go 3 racks until I know what they're going, or until because if they're going cloak or something, I don't want the 1 barracks fast expand. I could get faked out, so I go 3 racks, just so basically I go 3 racks until I know if they're going cloak or rush. And this one I thought that they were gonna go rush, so I went fast expand. And I think the triple Protoss, these players are actually pretty good. I think they were like rank 1 masters. I think maybe we just got lucky this game, I don't know. But here we go. I go fast expand because again we're gonna have about equal armies. I'm gonna have 400 less minerals, but we're gonna have the home field advantage. Meaning, like in this case, we have the high ground advantage. On top of that, they have units and transfer. So not so much with Protoss, but yeah, all right. So we're just fighting right here. We're shooting from the high ground, and their zealots ain't really doing much because we have a wall up, and that's a big deal. Now it's Stalker against Marauder, and it's just not gonna work out for them. Although we have about equal armies, but again, we had the home field advantage. We saw them coming. We were able to prepare. It's just I have 400 less minerals, but we have about equal armies anyways because we have the home field advantage. Might even have a stronger army with a. So yeah, a lot of zealots are dying, just getting kited, and we're shooting from the top. But yeah, now against Protoss, if this was against Terran, they would have about, let's say they had 4 Marauders in transfer. That means they have 400 less minerals to their army. Even though I have a command center, we have about equal armies because they have units in transfer. So, and again, we have the high ground advantage and vision advantage. So, this just goes on. I think I'm researching STEM right now. And my plan is, when they rush like this, my plan is to deflect the rush with, a basic 3 racks with equivalent army, or, same unit type, and then expand as soon as the rush is over. and then go deny their expansion because I just won the battle and they just spent a lot more minerals than I did in the exchange, and they're probably gonna have a smaller army by the time I get to their base. So I'll see what I'm talking about, or I'll explain what I'm talking about after we totally crush this. I mean, not totally. I mean, after we finally deflect this. And here's what I'm talking about. Overall, I think they lost a lot more units than I did. Than our team did. Like right now, I have an extra command center. I have stim. Yeah. And we decided to go deny their expansion. And these are random teammates. They're just on the same page, I guess. And even decided to get a factory. I just felt safe. I wanted medvacs. Yeah. So right now, since we deflected that like 3 times, I think we deflected like 3 waves. We have a much bigger army than them, and we're not counterattacking all the way to their main because it would be role reversal. It would be the same thing that just happened, except we can beat them in the middle now since we have a slightly bigger army. They don't have the high ground advantage, at least in this case, and they don't have, I don't know, if just for some reason when you're attacking on your home field, maybe it's vision or something. It just always seems to work out for the defender if they're equal armies. So yeah, we denied all the expansions. They didn't even have, or they only had 1 expansion up. We decided to take out the wall since the wall is right here and it's kind of easy to pick off. We all have ranged units, and I scan so we can keep on sniping. I want to get this cybernetics core so they can't make any more stalkers. I don't know. Like at this point, we don't even need to do this. We probably shouldn't have pushed that deep, but it works out anyways. I probably should have transferred SCVs a lot earlier, but oh well. Next time, I'll transfer. So right now we're 4 bases off against 3 bases. We could probably even get a 5th or a 6th. My allies could expand easily right now if they wanted to, instead of pushing. But we decided to push. I think we overkilled it a little bit. Probably shouldn't have pushed this deep. Probably should have just sniped the expansions and backed out. But we want the we want the buildings, and then they quit. The opponents quit, so it's fine. But that's my counter to the rush. To the rush. If I see 1 gas and a lot of basic like warp gates or barracks, then that's what I do. Alright, and not all players are always on the same page, so I just showed like 3 games where my allies were doing the same thing that I was doing, and it works really well. But at least for me with my playstyle, but not always an ally might fast expand just off the bat. It's not always like that. Not all teammates are on the same page as me, and in fact, I think it's actually kind of rare that all teammates will be going the same build or the same type of counter that I like. But oh well. I'm not saying my counter is the best. I'm just saying it's just what works for me and my playstyle. But anyways, this one I'm gonna talk about my tempo now. Now this game I happened to open Banshees. I think the yellow player fast expanded, and I'm gonna talk about again my favorite. When I don't counterattack, so say I'm up, I don't counterattack. Instead, I expand and I deny expansions. I feel like for me that's the safest way to secure a win, because if I go all in and go straight for their base as if for a counterattack, it's just a lot riskier because they'll have a few more units than me. They'll have time to prepare to the units that I have, and they'll have the high ground advantage and just vision in general. They'll know exactly where my army is because their buildings will be surrounding my army, whereas I won't know exactly what they're going or where they are. But anyways, this guy did a relatively quick expand, so I open Banshees and then I go Marine Marauder. So again, Banshees are probably the toughest to do against Protoss, just because Stalkers are actually pretty good. I think they're quicker than Banshees, and I think they have maybe equivalent range, whereas Marines are slower than Banshees, and they can get 2-shotted. And then stalkers again, they have shields, which makes them a little bit more resistant to harass. But I think I decided to expand. My banshees are doing somewhat damage. They're just keeping them in, and if ever like I don't do a knockout blow in the opener, this is what I'll do. Pretty much, I'll have my main army, and then I'll go. I'll have a few banshees harassing around the map just so I can know when they're expanding, so I can keep them contained in their base so they can't mass expand. So this I saw that this guy had all stalkers, so I decided to push. It's not always like this, but I think he went all stalkers because I had banshees. Maybe that was one of the reasons. So I decided to come in, snipe the expansion. I didn't go for his main. I went for the expansion, and then I killed the Colossus. Colossus can't hit banshees, so Green, his ally, helps him out. This is a 4v4, by the way, so there's like probably an entirely different battle going down on the bottom side of the map. On the bottom side of the map, and then I back out. So I'm not expansion up. This is just I don't go all the way in for the kill because I feel like that would I don't know. It's just riskier. It's just riskier. With the expansion, I can hit it and run back, and I expand. If I ever win a second battle, then I'm gonna take a third expansion or my fourth expansion if it's at that time. So I'm just repairing my banshees right now, and then I'm gonna send him back and then do some more scouting. Probably, ideally, scout that same expansion and see if he decides to put up another expansion there. And my ally's going Mutalisks, and I don't know if he was doing well on bottom. I think he was. Because I didn't really see any. It was just me against the Protoss and the Terran. So I'm assuming that he was holding his own on bottom, keeping the bottom two players occupied. So this is what the Banshees are for. It costs a lot to defend against these. He has to get stalkers. Maybe that's not the unit that he wants to get. And again, I know exactly when his expansion is going up. I know exactly what units he's going, and I can even deny the expansion if he lets it fester. If he lets the Banshees he has to do something. And at this point, he can't help out bottom if he wanted to. Say they need those stalkers for the Mutalisks. He can't help out bottom because I've got these Banshees sitting around. And I see that he has pure stalker again, so I scan. I hope I scan. I don't know. I guess I decided to risk it. I probably should have scanned right underneath the bottom right to see if the green was right there or not. But yeah, those Mutalisks are friendly. And I sniped the expansion again. I should probably put up my third, and then pink quits. I don't know. And then green shows up, so I back out. I got the expansion already. So here I notice that green has a lot of Thors, and I think that he got the Thors to deal with the Mutalisks, which is a pretty good counter to Mutalisks. But Marauders can be really good against Thors, so I decided to attack him here. But I actually don't micro the Marauders that well, and I think I actually lose this battle. Although it's possible I could have done more damage. Maybe not win it, but at least killed like 3 Thors instead. I only killed 2. I forget that Thors have longer range than my Marauders. I think that my Marauders got trapped behind each other, and I just back out here. So that kind of sucked, but I think I still had some units back here. I should definitely have put up an expansion. This game was a while ago, but it showed very cleanly the build that I'm talking about, the tempo that I'm talking about. Everything just fell into line pretty evenly, and my ally is expanding. So here I am putting up the third. Okay. So pink's gone. I don't know. I think they make a big push on bottom, and instead of going, instead of if you help out on top, right, in 4v4s, if you're doing really well on top, it affects bottom. They have to pull resources from bottom. So instead of me running the long distance and going to help out on bottom, I decided to just push top because I feel like that's going to take them off bottom. And it's quicker to run to top than it is to run to bottom. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, see, they're pushing bottom like hard. I'm like, and I have a ghost, by the way. So I decided to just go top. I think I saw green down there, so I was like, alright, top is going to be undefended. Make sure with the scan that I'm not walking into like, a death trap into a bunch of siege tanks. And I just start killing SCVs. And I send my banshees to the expansion, to the undefended expansion, because they're just really good at killing expansions. And some marines show up, start killing marines, snipe 2 of them, finish this last Thor. Thor dies. Again, I'm setting up my 3rd, my ally's setting up my 4th for me, I guess. And I don't push it, I just back out. I think I saw another Thor and I was like, they already backed off bottom, and I'm just going to back out because I don't really know where they are. And then they quit. So that's my tempo. I don't counterattack, I expand and I deny expansions, typically. So I do that so that I don't lose my whole army in like a main base push, or like a really risky push, or even an equal push. So that's it. Thank you for watching. To summarize again what I went over my builds. I went over mainly two parts: my builds and also my tempo, because those are the 2 things that I had to try to figure out, or those are the 2 things that I think I had to figure out in order for me to advance from platinum to diamond, diamond to masters. Those are the 2 things that were toughest for me to figure out. So, and the 2 things that made the biggest difference, I think, for me. So, and to review for my builds, I have, I either go, banshees if they fast expand. For me personally, what works for me is banshees if they fast expand. I go 3 racks with turrets if they go banshees or dark templars or 1 base muta, and I go 3 racks fast expand if I think that they're gonna 3 racks push me at like 7 or 8 minutes, something like that. And for my tempo, if I'm up in the game, then I try to expand and then deny expansions rather than counterattack the main. And I do that so I don't lose my whole army in like an all-in counterattack or like a really risky counterattack. And I just rinse and repeat. So the more wins we have, the more bases I'll take and the more pressure I'll put on their expansions. And then if the game is kind of even, or even if the game is just going to last a long time, even if I'm up, even if say they have 2 bases, and we have like 3 bases each, then I'll have my main army, so Marine Marauders, Medvacs, and then I'll use Banshees to harass, to scout, Banshees with Cloak to scout and to also harass new expansions, just so it's harder for them to expand without us knowing. It's harder for them to expand, in general, and it makes it easier for us to expand, and it makes it a little bit harder for them to expand. So it just puts the game a little bit in our favor. That's just what works for me, and stuff that I kind of wish that I pretty much do wish that had been taught to me when I first started, in Platinum League, or at least one person's way of winning games up to Masters League. So I hope this was informative or helpful or informative, and thank you for watching.